Well, enjoy this absolute nothing burger of a Smackdown straight from Barcelona, Spain. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, the crowd was amazing during this episode, of course, right? But the common denominator with all of these episodes of Raw and Smackdown, basically until Mania, is that nothing's happening. You understand? Every episode is just a massive nothing burger, you know? Whole lot of nothing happening, right? There's a bunch of meaningless promos and a bunch of meaningless segments and just a bunch of nonsense that nobody cares about. And on top of that, there wasn't even that many segments or matches tonight, I feel like, right? Because it just went through in like 2 seconds. The SmackDown tonight was an absolute drag, but it felt quick because nothing was happening, if you get what I'm saying. So it was very weird. Now, I will say, okay, WWE did some things tonight that I actually thought were good, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. You guys know what one of them is with the Profits winning that tag team championship, but there are some downsides to that, sadly, that I will discuss later, of course, because you never know what's going to happen with the booking. However, there were some good elements tonight. There was some good stuff that actually Gunther did later, but there was also some mid stuff he did as well. Whole lot of stuff took place. Well, actually, not really. I mean, nothing took place. You get what I'm saying? But we'll break it down. Dr. Libations' segment was horrible, and Gunther's actual segments he had tonight were trash. Outside of the surprise match he had with Axiom, which we'll talk about that later, Gunther's first official match since he beat Damian Priest at SummerSlam, in my opinion, actually took place tonight, you know? And we're going to discuss what I mean by that a little bit later. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the SmackDown review, you know what I'm saying? Now, we first off had LA Knight. LA Knight came out, got a massive pop. The crowd was on fire. Anybody can get a pop in Spain at this point, unless your name is like B-Fab, Damian Priest, and who else didn't get a pop tonight? You know what I'm saying? DIY didn't get a pop tonight either. Unless you're one of them, and Gunther as well. You're going to be able to get a pop if you're in there, as long as you're not one of those people, okay? So that's basically the situation with that. LA Knight comes out, gets a massive pop from the crowd, basically says this is the SmackDown in Barcelona, Spain. Yeah, and the crowd's losing their minds. And then after this, LA Knight is basically interrupted after saying, you know, it's been a while since I've had this US belt, yada, 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 the usual stuff. Gets cut off by Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa comes down there with Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. And, you know, actually, no, sorry, before this happens, Jimmy Uso interrupted LA Knight. And Jimmy Uso came out there and he was basically talking about some, you know, I'm desperate, Oos. I'm desperate, Oos. I'm coming for that US Tag Team Championship or whatever. He kind of botched it or whatever, right? At least that's what I saw on the internet. I saw that segment spoiled for me earlier, but I did see the actual segment live on SmackDown, you know what I'm saying, on the broadcast. So Jimmy Uso basically came out there and challenged LA Knight for the US title and then got interrupted by Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa then comes down there and basically talks trash with Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. They get massive heat going over here in Barcelona. Crowd kind of chanting Fatu, Fatu, which Solo Sikoa is basically effectively over. You know, he's being outshined by Jacob Fatu in basically every possible category, and at this point, it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that Solo Sikoa's peak in his career probably is going to be his main event with Cody at SummerSlam for the WWE title. You get what I mean? That's like the biggest thing he's ever going to do, it feels like. Like, he will never get better than losing in the main event of SummerSlam. That's it. Anyways, then we get back to Solo basically on the mic. Solo Sikoa basically is talking about the fact that, what's it called? He's basically saying that, you know, Jimmy Uso's the biggest failure in the family, and that Jimmy Uso says the biggest failure is the fact that Solo Sikoa, you know, is his brother or some stuff like that. And then this sets up a 3v3 little brawl. Braun Strowman comes out and evens the odds, and then it sets up a 3v3 match, okay? Then once this happens, we already know what this is. We've seen the same collection of matches, whether it's Fatu versus Braun, Fatu versus LA Knight, Fatu versus, LA Knight versus somebody else, like Carmelo Hayes, you get what I mean? LA Knight versus Tama Tonga, LA Knight versus Solo. It's the same match. You know what I mean? LA Knight has probably fought Solo Sikoa or Jacob Fatu or Tama Tonga, one of those three, probably fought them at least 18 times in the last year and a half. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just unbelievable at this point. So, anyways, LA Knight and Braun Strowman and what's it called? And Jamie Uso end up getting the W here. They win this match. Tama Tonga's basically out there to just take pins, so Braun Strowman just pins him. Braun Strowman actually got a pretty good pop tonight, too, when he went out, so that was cool. But we've seen this match a billion times. Nobody really cares. This match is cooked. Solo versus Jacob Fatu. Like, I think we're like 35 days out from Mania. There's no point of even pulling the trigger on a Fatu and Solo feud anymore. There really is no point. Jacob Fatu's a bigger and a better star. You don't need to tell a story about that. Just move on and have Jacob Fatu move on to bigger and better things. And Tama Tonga as well. You might as well just have him be there as Jacob Fatu's like hype man, you know? Like, there's nothing to do with these guys. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing that they can do together that they can't do, you know, when they're separated, right? Basically what I'm saying is they need to separate and do other things. Like, it's as simple as that. Solo Sikoa doesn't have it, at least right now, and it's time to move on. So I don't need to see a Solo versus Jacob Fatu nothing burger match at Mania when we can just have them move on behind the scenes. They don't need to turn against each other. They just need to move on from this storyline. Then we get Jade Cargill basically in an interview with Kathy Kelly. She basically tells Kathy Kelly that Naomi attacked her heart, okay, and that she feels betrayed, she feels distraught, and she basically says that Naomi actually, she didn't see Naomi attack her, but when she woke up from her attack, she saw Naomi running away. And so basically they're trying to leave this open-ended so that maybe there's some material to work with with Bianca and Jade, which will eventually probably take place in the summer leading into SummerSlam for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. Pretty predictable stuff here. Segment was pretty bland and boring. Nobody really cares. Then Liv Morgan interrupts. She basically starts laughing at Jade. This is actually a pretty funny segment from Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan's just here to cause chaos. And he's like, you caused me to get blamed for weeks. You know what I'm saying? How about this? Between now and our match next week, why don't you try not to get thrown on any cards, you bum? So I actually enjoyed that. Liv Morgan did a good job with this segment. It was kind of funny. Filler segment, but it was decent for what it was, I guess. Then we get to arguably one of the worst parts of the night, if not the worst part, Charlotte Flair versus B-Fab. I've obviously been skeptical of Charlotte Flair and her injury, okay? ACL injury is nothing to play around with. We see this in sports like in the NBA, in the NFL, etc. These players and these athletes do not come back the same from ACL tears. That's a whole knee ligament that takes like 10 months to re-heal itself, and then you got to do rehab, and then you got to actually get used to doing in-ring work with that ACL still, and it'll never 100% be the same. And so because of that, I was nervous about her injury. And lo and behold, Charlotte Flair, in my opinion, looks pretty mediocre / bad in this match. If you compare Charlotte to what Charlotte Flair usually looks like, she's one of the greatest in-ring performers that women's wrestling has ever seen, So for her to come out tonight and look this mediocre, this bad, it has been like 15 months since she's wrestled, so I'll give you that. Maybe it was just rust. But the thing is that Triple H doesn't have these people wrestle. So how is she going to work off the rust if she's not wrestling? After this match tonight versus B-Fab, she probably will not wrestle again until Mania 41. And if this is the shape that she's in right now in the ring, she looks slower. She looks kind of nervous about her knee when she's wrestling too. Like when she did the kick up, she barely could stay stable with it. She was moving slower, very ginger on the knee. And even the figure four was a little bit choppy. Some of the moves she was doing were a little bit botchy. She doesn't seem confident in her knee, and I'm not confident in her knee at all, at least as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm very unsure if she can get 100%, back to at least 90 or 80% of what she was in a 4-week time span when she's not wrestling at all. It's just not plausible. So I don't know about this, man. I really am nervous with Charlotte Flair in that knee. She obviously makes B-Fab tap out with the figure four. I mean, we already know this, but, I'm just talking about Charlotte Flair in general now. I'm nervous about the knee. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Plus the fact that her and Tiffany's stories have been their build-up for Mania 41 has been terrible so far. It's the same thing, right? They peaked in the first week when Charlotte Flair came out and she was basically saying, you don't even deserve to be in the ring with me, basically, I'm Charlotte Flair. You're just a rookie begging to be in my presence. So get out of my face. So like that's the best we've seen from Charlotte and Tiffany so far in this feud. Tiffany has elevated nothing on the mic because she's not good on the mic yet at all. She's atrocious so far. And her wrestling moves, these moonsaults and backflips need to stop. Unless you're going to actually hit the person you're trying to moonsault on or backflip on, stop doing the move. Tiffany Stratton has botched at least 5 of these in the last 2 weeks alone. You know what I'm saying? The last 3 or 4 weeks at this point. She botches this at least once or twice per week. It's getting ridiculous, and she's going to get hurt eventually doing this stuff. It's just a matter of time, sadly. So I'm just nervous about the injuries here. The build-up sucks. It's just so one of them beats up each other, and the next week they beat up each other, and the next week the other person beats up the other person, and then vice versa, and vice versa, and vice versa over and over and over again. And then when they get on the mic, the only person who will be halfway decent on the mic in their feud is going to be Charlotte. So I don't like this feud at all. I'm nervous with the injury stuff, sadly, and every single build for Mania 41 is basically the same. Randy Orton comes out tonight. He feuds with Kevin Owens, quote-unquote feuds. It's just a brawl segment. Gunther beats up Jey Uso. Jey Uso beats up Gunther. Gunther beats up Jey Uso. Gunther beats up Jey Uso. Next week, Jey will beat up Gunther. Then Gunther will beat up Jey Uso. And then they'll have a garbage promo in the middle of the ring. And then they'll beat up each other. And they'll have a garbage promo right before Mania. And then it'll be a mid-match at Mania. It's the same stuff. So when are we going to move on from this and actually have engaging story segments and promos and stuff like that, right? And creative brawl segments and creative fighting segments that actually get you invested in any of these feuds. This is the WWE Women's Championship and the Men's World Heavyweight Championship and even the Women's World Title. And even Cody Rhodes and Cena's feud, which Cena hasn't been there to build it, so there you have that. I mean, we know Cody can't do it alone, but you get what I'm saying. It's just ridiculous. Speaking of Cody, we then have the Miz TV segment, which is basically Cody Rhodes comes out, crossroads the Miz, and before he does this, Tiffany Stratton jumps off of like some big podium thing, the big stage in the arena, and then does like a front senton flip, but she completely misses Charlotte Flair by a landslide. Charlotte Flair standing at the front of the pile, Tiffany hits the back of the pile with the security guards. So it's like, what is this? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. If Tiffany Stratton is not going to hit this move, stop doing it. It looks horrible. She's botching it completely. It's not even the people's fault for carrying her. She's completely missing. How are they supposed to hold you if you keep missing them? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? It's like if you're waiting for, if you have a kid, right? And you're waiting for them to get off the swing set, and they're swinging off the set, and you're standing in position to catch them, and they fling like 50 feet past your head, you're not going to catch them. Like, it's as simple as that. So, I don't understand this. Then we get to Miz TV. Like I said, Cody Rhodes crossroads The Miz, and then starts speaking on the mic for a combined 20 seconds, and basically says, I don't want to speak to anyone unless it's John Cena, because I respect you, John Cena. Like, dude, let's be real here. Cody Rhodes has nothing to say. So he proceeds to say, John Cena, I'll see you on Monday, and that's it. Cody has nothing to offer. He basically was just out here so the crowd could see him, but he has nothing to do. Cody Rhodes realistically should be defending his WWE Championship tonight in a match that we know would be predictable because he would win the match and obviously retain his belts, but it would at least provide some intrigue. Have Carmelo Hayes go out and fight Cody for the belt rather than getting RKO'd 4 times and getting embarrassed like a jobber later in the night. But anyways, then we get to Damian Priest versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This is a filler match that no one really cares about. Damian Priest ends up, gets a DQ match or ends up being disqualification because in the match, Damian Priest hits Shinsuke with the South of Heaven while Shinsuke's running at him. Pretty cool spot, I guess. The match is mid, it's forgettable, it's a filler match, and that's why I'm upset with it. I'm tired of filler matches and filler segments. I just don't understand that anymore. Why are we getting the same stuff every single week? I don't get it. It's Mania season, and we're getting the same type of segments, the same type of promos, the same matches, and the same people. Damian Priest versus Shinsuke is a new match. Don't get me wrong. We haven't seen these two fight each other, but still, it's the same premise. The match ends in a DQ so that the person who he's feuding with for Mania comes in and beats him up and then stands over him. And then next week, Damian will come out and beat Drew up. It's just stupid. What does this add to Mania at all? Does Triple H not understand that in Mania season, you have to actually make these feuds engaging and interesting and the best they can possibly be? Because this is going to be broadcasted to, who knows if it's going to be millions and millions anymore with the way the viewership is now, but you get what I'm saying. It's just egregious to me. This is the best product you can put out during WrestleMania season? Really? There's just constant brawl segments over and over and over again. That's it? In repetitive matches that they're going to fit, how they're going to finish? It's just, really? So Drew McIntyre attacks him. He hits him with a Claymore, brawls with him, throws him against the barricade outside and basically talks trash and then stands over him, and that's it. This says nothing because Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest are absolute jobbers now. No one cares what they're doing. Damian Priest comes out in Spain and gets basically no reaction dang near. No one cares. It's Damian Priest, the quote-unquote Street King. What kind of name is that? What does that even mean? The Street King. Right? Like what? The Street King who got knocked out by Shinsuke Nakamura. That's what the Street King means? And then Drew McIntyre, who got from winning a world title at last year's Mania and is now feuding with an undercarder and Damian Priest? Really? I mean, it's over. Drew McIntyre, I can't stop thinking about Punk. You can't stop being a jobber. It's over. Now let's get on to Randy Orton versus Carmelo Anthony. I knew I was going to make that mistake at some point. I knew I was going to call him Carmelo Anthony at some point, and I just did it, man. Carmelo Hayes versus Randy Orton. This is a glorified squash match. Melo hits his moves, does his good in-ring match charisma stuff that he usually does, talking trash, faking the handshake to Orton, which got Orton to actually break character and genuinely laugh, which was funny. And Carmelo Hayes basically, he ends up losing this match, of course, but it comes in a very funny way. So Melo does his Force 48, which is basically just the code breaker. He hits the code breaker on Randy and stuns Randy completely. And then after he stuns Randy Orton's wobbling a little bit, and then just boom, RKO out of nowhere. It was a really good ending to what was actually a solid match. Probably my favorite part of the show. Well, no. There's one more part of the show that I did really like, and we're going to discuss that a little bit later, okay? But this match was solid for what it was. It was a fun little Randy Orton match. He came out and got a huge pop from the crowd, amazing reactions, and so that was pretty entertaining. And quite frankly, Randy Orton's just awesome, right? Who doesn't want to see Randy Orton? Comes out there, does his usual Randy Orton match, hits a couple scoop slams, had a really cool scoop slam counter from when Melo tried to do his springboard lariat, or backwards clothesline thing that he does, off the ropes, and Randy Orton countered it into a what's it called, the scoop slam, sorry. It's a lot of moves to remember, but Michael Cole doesn't remember them, so why should I? You get what I'm saying? But not Michael Cole, Randy Orton hits the scoop slam off the rope, and then obviously gets stunned, hits the RKO, match is over. After the match, though, Carmelo Hayes tries to, Randy Orton tries to shake his hand. Carmelo Hayes pushes Randy Orton's face away, and then Orton just RKOs him again and leaves him knocked out in the middle of the ring. And at this point, Carmelo Hayes is being being made to be a jobber. Like I keep saying, how is Tiffany the WWE Women's Champion? Braun Breaker gets 2 IC title reigns, and Carmelo Hayes is relegated to wrestling dang near every single week for the last year and is rewarded with nothing. Are you kidding me? You couldn't have Melo Hayes be the person to take that belt from LA Knight instead of Shinsuke, who took the belt and then for 3.5 months did nothing, had like 2 matches in 3.5 months? Really? I mean, it doesn't even make any sense anymore. Melo Hayes is being wasted slowly but surely, and it's absolutely egregious how Tiffany Stratton and Braun Breaker, who, quite frankly, Braun Breaker doesn't do anything. Like, he doesn't do anything. Yeah, he's got talents and all that stuff, but who's actually going out and showing their talents on the mic? You know what I'm saying? In storytelling, in charisma, in in-ring persona. Who has a better entrance theme? Who's arguably has a better moveset, you know? Carmelo Hayes has those things over both him and Tiffany Stratton, arguably. And for some odd, well, it's not arguably. He's way better than Tiffany Stratton. But anyways, he is arguably with Braun Breaker, right? And the fact that Melo Hayes is relegated to being a no-name jobber who's getting RKO'd and is getting a mediocre reaction compared to what he should be getting from the crowd, it's really sad to me. You know, it's embarrassing. So, you know, again, Carmelo Hayes just continues to get treated poorly, but it's expected now, I guess. Then we get Gunther. You know what I'm saying? Gunther, turn the TV off, Gunther. No pop from the crowd, Gunther. He's super boring, Gunther. 5 title matches, Gunther. You know what I'm saying? What a joke this guy is at this point. Gunther basically comes out here and basically says, Jey Uso's doing the usual stuff, entertaining you morons with his stupid gimmick. Well, what are you doing to entertain us, Gunther? What are you doing? What, wrestling 5 title matches in 7.5 months as champion? That's entertaining to you? Or is anyone here entertained by that? Yes or no? You know what I'm saying? Like, is anyone like that? No one likes that. So stop it. At least Jey Uso's doing something to try and entertain the people, while Gunther shows up week after week, does not wrestle unless it's a 5-minute squash match versus Tozawa, which even then he almost gets pinned, and then he almost gets pinned versus Otis, and then tonight he has a surprise match versus Axiom, okay? Axiom basically fights Gunther. This is pretty cool. I like Axiom, okay? Him and Nathan Frazier doing amazing work at NXT. They're actually my second favorite tag team in all of WWE as far as I'm concerned. Street Profits are number 1, and then Fraxium is number 2, because Fraxium puts on banger matches repeatedly. They're very entertaining in the ring, and they're consistent. You get what I'm saying? They just had a great match with the Hardys, which I really enjoyed, so yeah, there you have it. But Axiom puts on a solid match with Gunther, and quite frankly, this is the first time outside of maybe the Otis match that Gunther has actually had to sweat or try hard or do anything of meaning or interest inside of a match. Like in this match, Gunther's chops actually kind of felt like Gunther chops normally do. You know, this is the first time this dude actually looks somewhat back to formula. You know, shout out Green Goblin, you know, but back to formula. He looks somewhat back to formula for the first time in months. You know, in months. Part of it's because he never wrestles, obviously, right? So you can't see him in form if he isn't wrestling. But this match was pretty entertaining. Axiom had some good counters. The match went on longer than expected, I guess you could say. And quite frankly, I mean, I guess it's not unexpected. I mean, he had a 10 to 15 minute match with Otis. Yeah, like come on now. But he goes on there and he has a solid match with Gunther. Counters a couple chops, has some good Hurricane Ranas off the top rope. And quite frankly, Axiom is just extremely fast, extremely athletic. And he was good out there in front of the crowd in Spain. They loved him over there in Spain, so that was really cool. Gunther obviously got the dub here, which is expected, of course. But at the end of the day, you know, this is just something that has to take place. You can't have Axiom win the belt, obviously, this close to Mania. And I forgot to mention, I think with the Randy Orton and Carmelo Hayes situation, after the match, Randy Orton was actually going to try and punt Carmelo Hayes for some odd reason, which is ridiculous. I don't even know why Carmelo Hayes is being put in a position where he might get punted for no reason. It's just very dumb. You know, I like, what are we doing? Carmelo Hayes is just being jobbed out into oblivion. But anyways, basically this takes place, and then Kevin Owens and Randy Orton have like a quasi-brawl where KO hits him like once, Orton hits him once, throws him over the barricade, and then KO like hits him once again and then runs away. That's literally it. That's all that happened here, so there you go. And then after the Gunther and Axiom match, which was pretty cool, Gunther puts Axiom in a headlock, and then they move on to the next segment. Then we have Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman basically comes out, and the moral of this story is that Roman Reigns will be on SmackDown next week. Yay, Roman Reigns, yay! We're going to get 2 SmackDown appearances in a 9-week build-up to Mania. Yay! You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really crazy to me. Roman Reigns, obviously one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but come on. 2 SmackDowns he's slated for from now until Mania? That's it? I'm assuming there will at least be 1 or 2 maybe Raw surprises in there as well, but if not, this is just a joke. You know, Roman Reigns doesn't have any real beef with CM Punk. Yeah, Punk, you know, literally, eliminated him at the Royal Rumble, but you can't have beef with someone for that. That makes no sense. You know, so they're like, what do you want them to do? Hey, be your friend? shake your hand and then keep you in the match as they run over the top rope themselves. Like, what do you want him to do? And then at Survivor Series, he was shaking Punk's hand because Punk helped him out in that match. So I just don't understand this garbage. Roman Reigns being on the show next week, though, should be some much needed, crowd-pleasing moments. It'll be cool to see him out there. But quite frankly, other than that, Paul Heyman was just glazing and bringing up how Roman Reigns is on the cover of 2K25 and it's Roman Reigns Day, yada, yada, yada. Nobody cares until Roman actually shows up. Unless Roman or Cena or The Rock is on a show, the show is essentially meaningless. That's basically how this works. Then we get to the main event. This was actually a pretty good match. Number one, this match was good for multiple reasons, of course, okay? Now, number one is that the Street Profits are just... Montez Ford is an incredible athlete, okay? This just goes without saying at this point. He is a phenomenal athlete. He's incredibly energetic. He has great in-ring charisma. He has great on-mic charisma, you know what I'm saying? Angelo Dawkins kind of has elements of that as well, which is good. Angelo Dawkins really good in the ring in this match. A bunch of power moves. His comeback phase he went in, it was really, really good. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, they actually did a decent job in this match working off of the Street Profits. So I thought this was an entertaining match with solid physicality, and there was some different twists and turns that, kind of made you think that the Profits would lose, that the Profits could win, maybe DIY would win. It was cool stuff like that. Then we get to the actual ending of the match, and the Street Profits capitalize on a miscommunication from Gargano and Ciampa, and that causes Montez Ford to hit from the heavens from like 50 feet in the air, and he actually gets the dub and pins. I think he pinned he pinned Gargano maybe, or Tommaso. One of the two. Was it Gargano or was it Tommaso? I think it was Gargano. I think it was Gargano. He pins Gargano, and the Street Profits are your tag team champions. Now, the problem with this is obviously the fact that the Street Profits getting the belts this close to Mania feels like an Io Sky situation. Io obviously got the belt from Rhea a couple weeks ago, but we know she's going to lose it at Mania to either Rhea or Bianca, probably Bianca, and she already feels like a third fiddle in the feud. And the Profits are winning the belt 4 or 5 weeks out from Mania. They might end up losing this to the Pretty Deadly, you know what I'm saying? Or as I call them, Pretty Boring. You know what I'm saying? Pretty dumb, right? That actually might happen, and that would be really infuriating if the Profits waited 4 years to win gold just to lose it in 3 weeks to Pretty Deadly. You get me? So I hope that doesn't happen. But if they are smart and they keep the belts on the Profits, which the Profits are the best main roster tag team in the company right now, I don't know, it's not even close, quite frankly. The Profits should keep these belts, and they should hold them and retain them at Mania in a really, really cool and good match and a good build. That's what should be happening. The Profits deserve this. They've been the only consistently good tag team on the mic. They've been consistently great in the ring. They have charisma. They get a reaction from the crowd, which is something that none of these other tag teams can really say. And so that's really all you need. They have everything. They're the best talented. They're best at most talented, most charismatic, arguably the most athletic at this point with the stuff they're doing. Like, it's crazy to me. So at the end of the day, Street Profits winning the tag team belts was a great way to end the show. I really enjoyed this, quite frankly, and it's good to see this happening. Should this have happened months ago, and have I been complaining about this for months? Absolutely. But quite frankly, I'm excited for their reign, but I'm skeptical. I can't get too overboard excited because at the end of the day, we don't know how long this reign is going to last. It could be a transitional belt to the Mania match that they eventually have probably, but let's just hope for the best and prepare for the worst. That's all we can really do. So anyways, Smackdown tonight was absolute garbage, okay? Well, actually, it was bad. I wouldn't say absolute garbage. That's a bit of a stretch because there were some things here that were actually good and that were pretty cool. But outside of those things like the Profits winning the belt, what's it called? Gunther and Axiom's match. The situation with Jade Cargill's little interview and then Liv joining in stuff as well. And the 3v3 match was decent. Crowd was into it a lot, so that was cool. And the crowd was good tonight as well. So there were some good elements, but everything else was pretty much garbage. You get what I'm saying? So I would give this a 4 or 5 out of 10. It's around like that below mid to mid level, Smackdown. But it's better than the other Smackdown. It's better than pretty much every Smackdown they've had for the last 2 months. That's telling you something. A 5 out of 10 episode is better than everything they've done for the last 2 months. Sleep on that. Think about that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. And as always, I hope you guys have a phenomenal day. Peace out and one love. The Profits are up and we want the smoke.